Welcome to Family History with Chris, or Family Vacations with Chris. I'm still doing this. Uh, so, recap. We started down here, Southampton, went around, went to Cove, Dublin, then we went up to Northern Ireland, came over here to Skagway, I believe. Anyway, went up there and then we went through this. We saw the sheep and the dogs. Um, Scotland. No. That was Northern Ireland. I'm sorry. And then went to Kirkwall. Came up through here to somewhere out here. And now we are over here. And I had to find Cawdor Castle because that's where we went. It was, I think we started out in Inverness is right here. We started out up here somewhere. Not Dingwall. Invergordon. Yeah, we came out. I think we came into Invergordon, and then took this way around to Inverness, and then from here we went up to go see Cawdor Castle and the gardens. And then afterwards we came back to Inverness and had lunch, and then came out to see Loch Ness. So we came out this way, and that was pretty fun. There's a castle out there. Came back. I think we went this way out to Dingwall and back over to Invergordon. What I'm going to do is I'll show some pictures. Let's see how much I remember. And then I did take a lot of video of the tour guide. She talked a lot, and so I tried to get what I thought was important. And honestly, I started listening to it and realized I don't remember any of that. So I'm glad I took video. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so here we have a map of Cawdor Castle. Now, one thing I thought was interesting about the Cawdor Castle, I'm sorry, Cawdor, is at some point it used to be Cawdor, Calder, and then they changed it to Cawdor for some reason. Now, they told us this, but I'm sorry, I just don't remember. But Cawdor, there are, I know out here there are some Cawdors, and so that's why I remember that. So anyway, we got the castle right here. We came in this way. There's a little maze out there. This was kind of closed off, but I took a picture. I'll show you. Went around here. Out here, there's like a little walkway. And yeah, we just got to take a look. Bunch of birds and stuff. So let's move on. See, ta-da! I made it. Cawdor Castle. This was this goes into the garden, and that's the maze right there. I thought it was pretty cool. They had a moat apparently, and this is to get into. Actually, there's just like a front area before you walk in. Now, there's actually someone who lives in this castle about so many months a year, and then she leaves so they can have tours and stuff. Okay, so I complained about not being able to go see Doon Castle, but I took a picture of this. It's like, hey, that's pretty close. Can't you just see a Frenchman? Hello. This is the Castle de Guy de Lombard, or something like that. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. You got to tour it there. I didn't get to go up there or anything, but it's pretty neat looking. This is that maze, and check this out. There's a Minotaur right in the middle. Now, if you've watched Christian Homestead, he has I think this is where he got his picture that Minotaur and stuff. Uh, when I saw that, I was like, hey, that's Christian Homestead's picture. I took that picture, though, so it's not as good as his. Um, here's some of the uh, gardens just on the side of that maze. And I like these. I think they keep it very well. And sometimes I wish I could have something like this. And, you know, just something pretty but useful. Bunch of flowers. Took these for my mom so she can see the pretty flowers. Here's their crest. Be mindful. They had the stag horns. There's a bell there. And then all the stuff about the crest right there. You know, you got the horses. What's that? That's a lion. The knight, established back in 1672. I don't remember what the HCS and the HLS stand for. If anybody knows, let me know. Okay, moving on. This is inside the castle, and it's just like any other house as far as I could tell, you know, except the walls are thick. I think they were saying some are like 6 to 8 feet thick. They got tapestries, and I believe where the tapestries are like the outer walls, because, you know, they're just made of the bricks and stuff, and so try to keep the heat in and the cold out. When we went through this, they gave us a little wand where, you know, certain places we could punch in a number and then it would tell us about this area and stuff like that. This is the yellow room. And there's that, there's a fireplace there. And I'm sorry, I'm really bad at telling you. It's like, hey, this is a picture and it's cool. This picture actually reminded me of something that my grandma had, but not quite, but kind of similar. I noticed that the stairs and you know, most of the carpets they had in their clan. Oh, what do you call that? Whatever there. And then they had like a bunch of muskets right there on the wall. This is one of the bedrooms. And I kind of like how they had these, you know. This is for the kids that they had. There's a twin bedroom. Yeah, notice the carpet too. Now, it kind of looks like there's a bunch of different patterns too. So let's move on. There's another fireplace and a hallway. It seemed like the hallways were kind of taller too. Let's see. And then here's a ship. There was a history behind that. I don't remember. It's like, look at that. It's pretty. And that's fuzzy. Okay, so I think this went down to the dungeon. Yeah. Okay, so there's a story. Now, I think I got the story from the guide, and you'll hear about it a little later. But this is the tree. She talks about when the guy who built the castle was looking for a place to build the castle. He had a donkey, and he said, okay, wherever the donkey sits is where I will build the castle. And this is, I think it's like a mulberry tree or something. It's dead now, but that's where he started. That's where the donkey sat. started. Yep, and that was the small dungeon. Okay, so there's the tree there, and then you had a little dungeon right there. Let's see if we could read this. This secret bottle-shaped room was discovered in 1979 when the mortar joints were being repointed. To check whether the stonework was solid, a crowbar was probed into this thick wall, and a space was found. Little gated doorway is new and was slapped in the thickness of the wall, slapped through the flank of the dungeon vault. Originally, the only access was via the vertical shaft in the thickness of the wall, with the trapdoor in the floor of the room above. The chamber is about 6 feet by 12 and 8 feet high to the crown of the elliptical vault. At one end, the deep, narrow in-go formed minute window, and at the other end, steps led up into the privy. It seems that in October 1891, the room above was gutted by fire, a blaze that was started by a spark in the jackdaw's nest. When the damage was repaired, the trap was floored over, and all knowledge of the existence of the dungeon faded and was lost. There are indications that the dungeon may have served as a hideout for women and children, and even as a playroom apart from the more obvious use as a place to store hostages and the ungodly. A selection of finds is displayed in the lighted window. In the family archives, there are only 2 references to this room, and strangely, they have a paradoxical connection. First, on 17th of May, 1482, King James III of Scotland wrote a surety letter. I'm pretty sure that says surety and not anything else. A surety letter to the Earl of Huntly, instructing him to cause the Thane of Cawdor to release William Rose of Kilrivock from prison. The neighboring houses of Cawdor and Kilvarrock were Cawdor and Thane of Cawdor to release Kilvarrock. Houses of Cawdor and Kilvarrock were then engaged in a quarrel. Rose was duly released, ruffled but unharmed. Secondly, 200 years later, in 1680, it is recorded that the notorious local cattle thief called Colum Beg was caught red-handed with the stolen sheep and was brought before the laird, Sir Hugh Campbell of Cawdor, to answer justice at the castle. The offender and the animal were locked up while the owners were regaled with bread and ale in the hall. Colum Beg, the nickname means Little Malcolm, was evidently a charming rogue, and Sir Hugh had a kindness for him and helped him out of the scrapes before. So on this occasion, Sir Hugh, aware that the death penalty might be demanded, slipped away to ask the culprit if he had a good knife. On being told, I dispatched the fat lamb, cut it up into morsels, and threw them out the window, outside in the courtyard. Sir Hugh assembled pack of hounds, made quick work of evidence. The prisoner was summoned, but the absence of proof was set free. Before long, Colum was again caught sheep-stealing by then Rose Laird of Kilvarrock. In spite of Sir Hugh's personal pleading for the man's life, on the steps neighbor's castle on the gifting day of New Year's morning, Colum Beg was something and buried in a field. Okay. And see, this was number 10, so we'd push in 10 and it'd basically read that. This is the other side with the muskets and stairs. I didn't know we were going to see that. So then they had the history of Cawdor Castle. Unfortunately, it's too small to read, but kind of neat. Started in the thousands. Talks about what happened there. 1600s, blah blah blah, la la la. And I really should have got closer pictures. But yep, ta-da! Back to the, and then out to the 2000s. See if we can read any of this. 2003 to first be 2005. Cawdor Castle was re-roofed. The old Valuluk states are used in the design state garden located in the flower garden. Okay, well, and then 2020. So yeah, bunch of stuff. 1916. Cool. All right, so this is the other side where we had the gardens, pretty flowers, and then we moved on. Apparently we moved on. So from there, we went out and had lunch in Inverness, I believe. So going through Inverness, here's a castle out there. It's like, oh yay, more castles. I like the architecture. It's just pretty cool. Just how things were. Streets of Inverness. There's those steeples again. I think on that last one there was a river, and that was the river that leads to Loch Ness. And then I think, yeah, we crossed this river right here. Goes out to Loch Ness, and we just follow it. This is that castle. See, there's the turret and stuff. Oh, this was out at Cawdor Castle. My father-in-law took this picture. These are common out there, but we don't have them here. So, but it's a pretty cool picture. Now, if you got, I knew once upon a time what it was, but not today. I'd have to look it up. Anywho, moving on. Here's Loch Ness. I was looking for Nessie just in case anything would happen. We got out to a castle that was blown up and stuff like that. There's some neat history out there. And this is what it looks like today. We got to go tour it and stuff. And some of those stairs were steep. It was like crazy. I don't know how they survived that. I think there's still a place there where it shows where they used to make the bread and stuff. This is the household of that castle. So you had the lord, lady, tenants. You had a constable, a marshal, steward, chaplain, servants, choir boys, assistant, and then just who was under everybody. So it looks like it was that castle had a whole town or something. This is what the castle looked like, but no more, you know. Little piece of this is still there. This is not there. I think this area we got to go in. Most of this is blown up. And then that's the lake right there. The loch. Okay, moving on. We wanted to see what they call Highland coos. So the Highland cows, they call them Highland coos. They're hairy cows. This is as close as I got, and I didn't realize I missed the head. Head's the best part, you know. So, but yeah, there's a Highland coo for you. And that'd be it. Now I'll just let you listen in on the tour guide and all that other stuff. Thanks.
Before as we leave you the board, this is you'll see there are lots of platforms here in the first, oil platforms. This in the Cromarty Firth. There has been a long history with the oil industry here since the 1970s. We've got a drilling platform here to the right well, two here, and there are various platforms that come in here actually either to be repaired or to be decommissioned. We also have a huge amount of industry with renewable energies, just like everywhere. We're big on wind turbines here because we have quite a lot of wind here in Scotland, and we generate a lot of electricity for the rest of the country here from the north. The Cromarty Firth is actually quite interesting because it's the biggest, it's the deepest natural harbour in Europe. So it makes it perfect for a lot of these industries, but particularly for cruise boats and ships coming in. And it has also a long naval history with the British Navy, because in the First World War and the Second World War there were a lot of ships based here. So there are lots of stories, some of which I'll tell you today, about the naval experience here in Invergordon. So we had lots of American soldiers actually based here, airmen, soldiers, naval people based here in the First World War. And in fact, in a local distillery, it was taken over by Americans to make mines that were going up to Scapa Flow in the north near Orkney in order to intercept U-boats which were trying to target Arctic convoys going to Russia with supplies. I'll show you that distillery as we're passing. And also we had a lot of military personnel here in the Second World War as well, Navy, RAF and Army, and a lot of Americans. In fact, quite a lot of local ladies left these shores to go and marry Americans after the war. So happy times here during the war. Even though it was war, there were sad and very difficult times, but there were also some very happy memories as well, which are shown quite a lot in the local museum, which is a fascinating visit.
Well, there's a church over there.
And I'll show you as well, we've got old hammers. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? No. Nope. It's just cut out. Where the Americans were based during the war. So we'll show you a few bits. Oh, it's cut. Oh, not again. Okay, that's it now. Right, I'm going to be very...
Nope.
Cut out. Oh, I know. No.
It's probably inside.
Banged up. I know.
Yes, we don't get commentary. It's right there now.
It's not.
It's right there. It's working.
Right. Right, okay. Right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. It's a pity because I've got a lot to say, you see. Right, okay, I'm not going to move. I'm going to be very still. Right, so as you can see, we've got the Cromarty Firth here then to the left, and on the other side of the Cromarty Firth is what we call the Black Isle, and it's a bit of a misnomer.
It's cut now.
Oh.
We're still there.
Is that it there?
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Wait a minute. Right, so on the other side is the Black Isle, and the Black Isle is actually a bit of a
Cut out.
Right,
Use his one.
hold on.
No, that's an oyster catcher.
Is that it? No.
No.
Right, let's see. Right. Yes, so the Black Isle, take 25, the Black Isle is over on the other side, and it's a bit of a misnomer because it's actually not.
That's right.
Is that it?
It's the bumps. Yeah, the bumps in the road. There it is. No.
The southeast England. England, on a square kilometre of land, you will have 80 people living. Here in Highland, on a square kilometre of land, we have 8 people living. So the quality of life is really much better. We might pay a little bit more to transport freight and goods, but we do have a nice quality of life. Also have a lot of trees here, and you'll see they're very green. About 17% of the land in Scotland is covered with forestry. Some of them are from the old Caledonian forest, which is as old as 10,000 years. So here to the left, in just a moment, you will see the bonded warehouses of Dalmore Distillery, and you will notice that the walls are black. It's not that they're dirty. I have to explain that when whiskey goes into the barrel, it is clear in colour. It takes its taste and its colour from the barrel. Most barrels that we use have been used before, either for bourbon whiskies in the States, sometimes for sherries or ports, for more specialist flavours. But when it goes into the barrel for maturing, it actually releases every year 2% escapes into the atmosphere, and we call this 2% the angel's share, which so we have very happy angels here in Scotland. And if you keep your mouths open and breathe in all day, you may come back to the boat, either flat on your back or skipping happily, having breathed in some alcoholic content. So you can imagine how many distilleries we have and how many barrels are in the process with whiskey maturing inside. So a lot of 2% in that air. Perhaps is why we're happy here, happy people, a happy nation here in Scotland. We also have a lot of, we have a family of bottlenose dolphins here in the area, not far from where the ship is docked. In fact, sometimes when ships leave, the dolphins will sometimes follow the ship. A few will follow the ships. It's almost as if they're seeing you off the territory. But we have a claim to fame for our dolphins. There's a family, about 100 of them, and there are quite a large number of photographers who photograph them all year round. So much so that they are able to identify them by name. So we've got Charlie and Davy and Susie and so on. It's amazing they can identify them from their markings. But our claim to fame is that our bottlenose dolphins are the fattest in the world. I have to say, we're not renowned for our healthy eating here in Scotland. We like everything fried and everything that's bad for you, including alcohol. So they are very fat because they are feasting on salmon in the waters round about here. And also they're happy because probably they're imbibing some of that angel share to keep them going. So maybe you'll see some later, and even if they don't appear to say you goodbye, have a few drams tonight at the bar, and you never know what you might see. You can see whatever you want to. So we also have in the Firth, there's the Black Isle on the other side, and so we've got the Firth. We're driving along the Firth for a little while, and then shortly we're coming to an area which is quite it's quite popular to see seals. We also have a lot of seals in this area. There are 2 types of seals. We have harbour seals and grey seals. I always get them mixed up, but one of them have their big eyes facing forward from the front, and the other one has them on the side. But we're coming up to pupping season. The seals have their babies in June, July, and their little pups can swim the minute they are born, and they stay with their mums for about 5 weeks, and the milk that they receive from their mums has 40% fat in the milk. Sometimes we see them, there's a particular spot we see quite a lot further down, just not far, a few miles from here, but if the water's too high, we don't often see them. Sometimes you'll see them on the stones, on the rocks in the water, upturned banana in shape. They're not yellow, but they're kind of curved as they sit on the rocks. So we'll see if we can see some shortly. Macbeth murdering King Duncan to get his throne, and he actually, Macbeth actually wrote the play and set it in Cawdor, which we're going to this morning, and actually Cawdor wasn't built until the end of the 14th century, the end of the 1300s, and so his play was published in 1606. He wrote it in the late 1500s. So the story was set with Macbeth murdering King Duncan at the castle that we're going to this morning. It couldn't possibly have been because the castle wasn't built when Macbeth was born, but playwrights always have a little bit of poetic license. So Dingwall is actually quite a well-known town for me because I'm actually a secondary school teacher. I have been teaching for 38 years. This is my 38th year. I spend most of my money from guiding and teaching on Estee Lauder moisturising cream to keep those wrinkles at bay. So you just have to do that sometimes. But I've been teaching there a long time. I teach French and German, and I run a lot of trips abroad. In fact, tomorrow actually, I'm going with, a canoe coach. I'm sorry, Robert. I'm going with a canoe coach to France, Germany, Holland and Belgium for a week with 46, 16 to 18-year-olds. So if you wouldn't mind putting up a little prayer for me, maybe think of me in the next couple of weeks. I've done about 40 trips in my time. I've sometimes done 2 a year. He was actually looking to build a new home, and he decided he wanted he didn't know how to decide where to build it, and so what he did was he came up with a plan. He loaded up his donkey with gold, and wherever the donkey sat down to rest, he decided that is where he would build his castle. In just a moment, hopefully Ardeshir is to the left here. We'll see Fort George further on. You'll see the jutting into the water. You may be a bit higher than me, but you'll see Castle Stuart, which was funded by just to the left here. Just if you keep your eye open to the left, you'll see the coronet at the top. You don't often see that on a castle, but it's one of the few here. So you might be here. You can see in the distance now to the left. You'll see Castle Stuart, and that has a coronet. It was funded for her stepbrother by Mary Queen of Scots in the 16th century. My dad, they opened it to the public for a while, but it's closed now. It was a very luxurious hotel for a while, and Helen Mirren got married in 2000 in the village of Ardeshir, and she had a reception at the castle. So the castle, so John the Thane of Cawdor, this here is a factory. It used to be Canadian owned. I'm not sure who owns it now, but it processes wood chip and makes plasterboard and paper. So this one is, it's almost got white smoke billowing out. So back to John, the Thane of Cawdor. He was looking for somewhere to build his castle, so he put his gold on the donkey. When the donkey got tired, he sat underneath a hawthorn tree, or what we thought was a hawthorn tree, and that is where John, the first Thane of Cawdor, built his castle. And in actual fact, in later years, as in recently, it was discovered that the hawthorn tree was not actually a hawthorn tree, it was a holly tree. And the holly tree has a lot of symbolic connection to Christianity. It is probably the only castle in the world where the castle was built round a tree. And of course, as soon as the building was complete, the tree no longer had sunlight and the tree died. So you will see the remnants of the tree from 1372 in the dungeon area of the castle. You'll see it's surrounded by wrought iron railing. So you'll see the tree today. So the 8th Thane of Cawdor, he actually was married, had a daughter, Muriel. There's no mention of his wife. I think she must have died in childbirth, as was very common at the time. And he actually fell ill himself and died when Muriel was a baby. And the nursemaid, actually, we're just passing, we're not far past the airport here to the left. It's a small airport, but we have a lot of chartered flights in summer going to Lake Garda and to Mallorca and so on. Most people would travel to the south for an airport, Edinburgh, Glasgow or Aberdeen, but there's a daily flight to Amsterdam, so you could be in Central Europe very quickly. Little pigs, or big pigs to the side. So the 8th Thane of Cawdor died, leaving his child an orphan, and the nursemaid, she actually was very worried about Muriel's future, because although the clans, the families were all related, the Duke of Argyll down in the south of Scotland was related, he was a Campbell as well. They have Inverary Castle currently, but there were always these power struggles among the chiefs and the families. And so when the 8th Thane of Cawdor died, there was likely to be a struggle for the land and the castle. And the nursemaid knew that there would be an attempt to kidnap Muriel in order to get hands on the property and the lands. So what she did, in order to ensure that she would always know the identity of Muriel, she actually bit off the tip of her little finger as a little baby. It was a bit of a brutal world back then. And she also branded her on her thigh with a key that had been placed in fire, so a red hot key. And these keys in those days were not known for being small, so branded her so that she would always recognise who she was. And in fact, poor Muriel was kidnapped by the Duke of Argyll and stayed with him until she was 12 years old, at which time he married her off to his second son. Amazingly, Muriel had a very happy marriage. She lived into her 80s, which was actually quite amazing for that time. But she came back to the castle with her husband when she was 15. And in the castle, there is a celebratory fireplace that was installed, and it's got Latin inscriptions to celebrate the marriage of Muriel and her husband. She doesn't haunt the castle, but there is alleged to be another ghost, a girl in a blue velvet dress with a white sash. try and convert a Pictish king to Christianity, which he succeeded in doing on his deathbed. And St Columba had founded Iona, which was a religious settlement further south from here on the west coast. And so the Picts were the people who lived here before the 6th century. They were called the Picts because they painted their faces and they used to do a lot of carvings on stone. There are still lots of people trying to interpret some of the meaning. The language has been lost, but there are Pictish trails in the area. A lot of farmers have Pictish stones. In fact, if the fields are not too high, as we go back to the boat, I'll point out a Pictish stone to you that's in the middle of one of the fields. But lots of farmers have discovered Pictish stones. So the Picts, the name came from the Latin word for paint, because they painted the painted ones. They painted their faces. So St Columba was walking along the shores of Loch Ness one day, and he actually wrote in his journals in Latin, which is what they wrote in at the time, and preached in. And he wrote that he had seen something strange in the loch. So the legend goes back to the 6th century anyway. More recently, in 1932, I have to say there was a hotelier, a lady, and we see the hotel. It's now an exhibition centre, the main museum for Loch Ness. She was in the hotel in 1932, the hotelier, and she saw some strange sightings in the loch at that time. So there were lots of journalists came up from London, and the legend was reborn and has been very popular ever since. I think there were some locals who played some tricks on some of the journalists by staging sightings in the loch. But I do think there are three categories of people. There are those that think the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist. There are those who are not sure, and there are those that believe absolutely that there is a monster under the water. For myself, I think there was probably something, whether it's still there. I think maybe there was something left over, some kind of sea creature or fish or eel from just after the last ice age, and I think that maybe interbred with something else. So I'm not sure, but the legend has it the creature has a long neck, and you'll see a few models of what Nessie is supposed to look like when we get nearer to Drumnadrochit, the village beside the Urquhart Castle. You'll see Urquhart Castle jutting out shortly. It's a ruin, and you see it jutting out into the water. So Nessie is actually a very happy monster, except by about August she tends to get a belly full of tourists, and she gets a little bit bad-tempered. So she takes herself off to Loch Ness, which is the deepest loch in Scotland, and she stays with her cousin Laura for a couple of weeks to unwind. You will have the opportunity to go to the water side, and it will be up to you when you decide to dip a toe or a finger in the water. I think you'll be fine, but I'm not covering any insurance. You'll have to just risk it. She wears lipstick like me. She also has long eyelashes, and she wears a tartan hat on her head. And if you look right across now on the left, you'll
She's
see
always got a glass of whiskey as well.
a glass of whiskey as well, Robert says. But the castle, Urquhart Castle, is jutting out there. You'll maybe see it through the trees shortly. The trees are very full of foliage just now, so it's not always easy. So the castle here was built in the medieval times, 13th century, and it was originally inhabited by the Derwent family. It then passed into the hands of the Grant family, who actually were on the Hanoverian side during the Battle of Culloden. Or not, actually it was not during the Battle of Culloden, during the time when there were rebellions trying to get a Stuart king back on the throne. And in 1692, there were Jacobites coming to try and seize the castle, because whoever owned the castle or had control of the castle had control of the loch, and that was crucial for moving people and freight from east to west. So the actual grants, in order to try and destroy the castle so that the Hanoverians couldn't use it, sorry, the Jacobites couldn't use it, they actually blew it up themselves. So it was blown up then, and it has never been renovated. And you'll see some of the medieval implements for warfare. There's an old trebuchet in the grounds. So it's been a ruin since 1692, but it's safe for you. There are tour guides as from the castle, down by the castle, from the centre, and they will answer any questions. If you'd like to go up into certain parts of the castle, and you'll see drawings and information boards down by the castle. Bye.